This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at the Santa Monica Playhouse for their presentation of Annabelle and the Snow Queen Express. Hi, Annabelle.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And you are?
Hi, I'm Katie Aaron Corbell. I grew up in Texas, and I went to school at the University of Texas in Austin, and I graduated about 2 years ago, and then made the move out here to pursue acting, and this show is the first thing that I've booked since I got here. I play Annabelle. So Annabelle is a very snobby 16-year-old girl who is she's at that phase in life where she is kind of sick of her family, but she's a little bit unique in that the way that she's sick of her family, the reason she's sick of her family is because she feels very disconnected with them. She feels like in our culture today, we are too obsessed with our gadgets and our stuff that she feels like her family is not really making time for her or for each other in the way that she would like them to.
Okay, is this your first musical theater or your first theater position?
So I did theater in high school, and I had small parts in some of the musicals in high school, but this is, I feel like some people would say that hardly counts, because it was the school shows where pretty much everybody gets cast if you audition. This is my first theater experience outside of school, and musical theater experience for sure.
So what's it like?
It's amazing. It's one of those things I kind of always dreamed of doing. I love to watch theater. I love to go and watch musicals, and it's one of those things where you watch and you always imagine yourself, it would be so amazing if I could do that, and now I'm doing it, and it's everything I hoped it would be.
Do you consider yourself more of an actor or a singer?
Definitely more of an actor. In fact, I almost did not audition for this at all because I was never confident enough. I've never been confident enough in my voice until after I got this role. I kind of auditioned on a whim and thought, why not? And then it's turned out to be amazing, but definitely an actor first.
Your singing's not that bad.
Thank you. Don't ask my friends at karaoke night and they'll tell you different.
So what's it like playing a kid? I guess it's not that long since you've been a kid, but how do you get into a child's mind? I
like to think it was long enough ago that it was a bit of a challenge, just because I wanted to try to steer clear of being a very stereotypical, snobby 16-year-old girl. I didn't want to get into a caricature of that. I wanted to make sure Annabelle was a real person and a real individual. So I just tried to remember what it was like for me as a teenager, and just remember that the snarkiness of what she is saying is not just because she's not rolling her eyes for the sake of rolling her eyes. She's not being difficult for the sake of being difficult. The frustrations that she has are very real, and she's at a point in her life where she feels like she has the right to express those frustrations. And so it was more of just rather than getting into the mindset of some immature kid, Annabelle thinks of herself as extremely mature, and she doesn't feel like she has to filter herself. So rather than trying to play someone immature, I just tried to play someone who was very unfiltered.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello.
My name's Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. You?
Hi, I'm Molly Gilman. I play Mac in Annabelle and the Snow Queen Express at Santa Monica Playhouse. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I've lived in Maplewood, New Jersey since I was 6 until I went to Vassar College. I graduated in 2006. I worked as a professional actor in New York City for however many years until moving here, specifically to Marina Del Rey, about 6 months ago for my partner's job. He works at USC. I play Mac, the maker. When Mac first appears, she's a little hyper. She speaks very fast and very technically. She appears to be some kind of absent-minded professor. She's late. She's the only person who doesn't get to the train on time and has to literally, we assume, fly to it, calculating, wind velocity and all that as she goes. So she lands pretty flustered. She is the most skeptical of Annabelle from the get-go because she does not trust teenage teenagers because she knows their brain chemistry and is not quite. Our brains don't fully develop until we're in our late 20s. So how could a teenager possibly have the weight of the world rested on her shoulders? But she gets won over fairly quickly and is a loyal servant assistant to the Snow Queen. And so despite her skepticism, whatever needs to get done, she will help to do.
Do you have much of a music background?
Yes, I was a musician before I was. That's not fair to say. I've always been a singer, but long before I discovered I could sing in public, I played the cello. That was my main focus from. I started in first grade, however old that was, and I was pretty serious about it, and I think I must have been rather good because I kept getting into exclusive groups as a cellist, and I was first cellist for many, many years. But the difference between something you're good at and something you're driven to do is how you feel about it. So even though I still love the cello, and I'm very glad I can play, and I'm very glad that I went to a public school that had a music program and just started handing out instruments at a young age, I just found myself feeling exhausted by it and sort of dominated and taken over by it. So I think in high school I said, that's it, I'm done, I'm not playing the cello, and I'll play it in school orchestra, but I'm not doing anything else with it. And then that year a choral director gave me my first solo at the last minute, unexpectedly, because somebody else just didn't show up the day of the concert. She said, okay, you're doing it. And I was like, I didn't have time to get scared. So I did it, and I saw my parents' mouths, their jaws drop, and the guy I liked at the time, I saw his jaw drop. So I'm like, oh, I can sing. So that was the end of that. I've been doing that ever since. And I started taking theater kind of seriously. I did it for fun, and again, I went to a really... we moved from New York partially so I could go to a good public school system. So we moved to Maplewood, New Jersey, and they would always have summer classes. So I would just take theater classes because they were fun, but I didn't take it seriously until my mom found auditions for a teen community production of Fiddler on the Roof when I was 13, and she asked me if I wanted her to take me to audition, and I did, and I landed a lead, and that was the beginning of the end. Although I chose not to go to college for theater. I chose to go for liberal arts. I have a degree in classics, ancient societies, which means Greek and Roman, mythology, literature, philosophy, whatever you can name, I did. So, yeah.
So would you consider yourself a actor who can sing or a musician who can act?
Ha-ha! I consider myself a musical theater performer where the singing and the acting are equally important, although funnily enough, maybe to do with typing. Most of the jobs I got in New York were classical, non-musical theater. I did a lot of Shakespeare, and that confused, I was not complaining, it was amazing, but it confused me because all of my training was in musical theater. I had no Shakespeare training at all, but I think being a musician actually helped me be good enough at Shakespeare sort of by accident, because the way you approach metered text is pretty similar to the way you approach sheet music. So subsequently to doing it, I've gotten more training, and I feel now more like a classically trained actor. But when I started doing it, no, I had musical theater training where the singing, I have opera training, I have technical training in lots of different styles of singing, but the drive for it for me has always been musical theater rather than wanting to stand up and sing without the context of a show.
Yeah, I ask the question a lot to people because I'm a little curious about it. Mm-hmm. And I look at you can usually tell when it's a musician. The person's a musician and all they're doing is just trying to fake it and all that.
Yeah.
You could also tell when there's actually a real actor behind it and they're actually trying to fake sing, which really isn't that, no, it's really not that bad. It's really not that bad. Usually you can fake sing.
In musical theater, I think the acting is supreme. If you're not a fantastic singer, but you're a fantastic actor, awesome. You can. There are some shows where the music is so important. Okay, not to be too controversial, but I sort of feel about the feature film they did, for example, of Sweeney Todd recently. Well, not recently, a couple of years back. I kind of wish they'd either chosen to be more true to the stage play or less true to the stage play, because when you've got phenomenal actors like Johnny Depp and Alan Rickman, and they are phenomenal, and they did those roles for the most part amazingly, but now and then even they couldn't overcome the fact that the moment was really about the music, and they cast actors who could sing rather than that show is basically opera, and you typically cast opera singers in it. Bryn Terfel did it for a long time. Now and then you do want, it is important to be able to sing the role, but less than Sondheim, often the acting is the most important thing. And if you feel like you can't sing it to the degree you want to, act the hell out of it and people won't care. And that's phenomenal. I think that's a phenomenal thing about this art form.
Yeah, plus also, all the time, you can see people fall asleep in opera.
It's a different, I had opera training in college. You probably can't tell right now because I'm very hoarse today, but it's just such a different form, even within opera, seeing different operas. And, when I lived in New York, we'd get student rush tickets to the Metropolitan Opera because we could, and we'd stand in the back. It was great. The people who went to the opera to be seen more than to actually see the show would leave during intermission, and if you looked like a deserving college student, they would hand you their tickets as they left. So if you're willing to stand behind someone taller than you for Act 1, you end up sitting front and center for Act 4 by the time people leave. So that was great. But some operas I would fall asleep, and some operas I would watch riveted, and I think the difference was and you get this division in musical theater as well. The shows where the music is telling a story versus where it stops dead and lives in the same emotional moment for 5 minutes. And both are totally legitimate, but to my taste, I prefer the post... I think Showboat was the first musical that did this, where the music was meant to advance the story rather than the script stopping for a song. I prefer the post-Showboat style musicals where the music advances the story versus the more stereotypical opera style where everything stops dead so they can sing about, we're going to church, we're going to cross the Rainbow Bridge now. And they don't do it. They sing about it for 15 minutes and it's like, so go already. If that's what you want to do, go do it. But it's all valid. It depends on what kind of art form you're, and whether, and in opera, it is more about the singing and the technical than necessary. You have opera singers who are phenomenal actors, and you have opera singers who don't even try. It's about the singing, and again, that's fine. It just depends on which aspect of the art you're emphasizing. And what I specifically love about musical theater is that it's about all of these forms in one, and I dig that.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the play.
I'm Ashton Marcus with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and you're?
I'm Marianne Pianca. I'm playing Trixie. I went to Syracuse University's drama department. I moved here about 2 years ago. I found the Playhouse on Actors Access, and I was in a show here that ran for 6 months. They asked me to be in this show, Annabelle, and I before she even finished the sentence, I was all about it. It's a wonderful place to be. So we've been running since December. It's my first musical, so it's an interesting challenge for me. Trixie is the Snow Queen's granddaughter, so we're sort of like two peas in a pod. I have a tendency to mess things up, but then fix them in the end. So she's one of those sort of dumb luck kind of people.
You said that this is your first musical. Do you have any background in music?
No. In drama school, I took a little bit of voice classes, but singing is not something I usually claim that I can do. I think with a character like Trixie that's so comedic, however, it works because it's more about the energy and the enthusiasm and things like that. And then some of the other singers in the show who are very good at singing, they helped me get the right notes when I needed to and work on it.
I've actually spoken to a lot of people in musical theater, and they say that singing really is not that important opposed to great acting. How do you feel about that?
I think that's accurate. I certainly think that singing helps. The singers that can just fill the room with a note is incredible. But I think most of the time it's more about the story that you're telling, the sincerity with which you tell it, the enthusiasm with which you tell it, especially in a family theater show like this that's aimed largely towards kids. I think it's more about the connection and the energy than technique, I think.
Do you also, because again, primarily you're not a singer, but do you concentrate on, say, voice acting or movement?
Yes, I'm actually a voiceover artist, and I've been auditioning a lot for that. And I was a dancer. I was always a dancer, so I sort of fell a little bit more easily into the role than I think I would have without those skills.
Yeah, because I noticed again the singing in this piece was actually pretty good.
Great, I'm so glad.
Hang on, let me put this. The acting was very good. The singing was actually pretty good too. The movement was okay. So, what do you think about children theater?
I think it's really important. I think theater can get people out of their shells, can make them so much more confident and excited about things and interested in things because they get to do it with their whole body. It's a great study tool and stuff. Even if you don't go the actor route as a career, just having theater in your life, I think, is good for your soul, that exploration and the sharing and stuff like that. And with children theater, I believe I heard Chris say this earlier, they are a very honest audience. If they think you're funny, they won't stop laughing until they want to. And if they are bored or like they're feeling disengaged, then they'll just talk and they'll wiggle, you know what I mean? So from an acting standpoint, it's a pleasure to have such a responsive audience. And then I think as an audience, theater is important. We talk about the human experience, and kids, if they see that early on, I think that can only be good.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thank you.
I'm Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. And you are?
I'm Courtney Smith. I play Ellie in Annabelle and the Snow Queen Express. I went to school at San Diego State University, and after graduating, I went to New York for a summer in New York at Stella Adler Studio of Acting, and now I'm in LA trying to make it as an actor, and this is one of the great opportunities that came my way. I moved here in December, so it's been an honor being able to share the stage at Santa Monica Playhouse. I play Ellie. Ellie is the older sister of the group in dynamic. She's protective, and she is a bit ballsy. She cares about her family a lot and making sure that everything is in order. She kind of follows cue with Queenie, and she takes care and protects everyone else.
And how did you feel about the ensemble? Because the director mentioned this before, that basically the interplay between the other cast members, the interplay between the ensemble.
I love the cast, and I think that they're such a great group to be to playing off of, because I entered this show as a replacement for the Ellie from the first run. She couldn't continue the show because she had another engagement. So I came in, I had one rehearsal, and they were 100% with me all the way. And so that kind of energy, the support translates on stage, because I'm always looking to them to build what's going on. And it's been fantastic, and I absolutely love them. I think that it is such an ensemble show, and I think that the fact that they are so open to me and I'm open to them really creates a lot of magic for the audience.
What's it like to do children theater? Actually, believe it or not, my show, the only things, two things I don't cover. One, I don't cover burlesque. Two, I don't cover children theater for a lot of reasons. So I don't have that much experience in children theater. What's that like? What's children theater like?
Children's theater or family theater is a lot more honest, because you are performing for people who will not lie about whether or not they enjoy your performance, whether or not they are following, whether or not they care. So it's one of those environments in which you're truly being tested on how engaging you are, because kids don't lie to you about what they are enjoying. And also, as from the acting perspective, it's so much fun because everything is over the top. Everything is caricature and character and heightened emotion, and it's one of the most fun acting experiences I've had. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Okay. I'm Ashton Marcus with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and you're?
Xavier J. Watson. I'm a military kid. I sort of lived all around the South. I came here from Atlanta. I lived there for about 5 years, and I've been here for a little over 4 years, trying to act full time, and I keep doing it. I play the conductor. The conductor, he's the one he's been designated to sort of run the train, make everyone feel comfortable. If anything goes wrong, everyone probably looks to him to make sure everything's all right. Of course, there's a moment in the play where stuff goes haywire, and he gets scared. So he's like, "Okay, let's calm down and stay on track." I'm the one. I play the guy that everyone looks to keep everything in order, to stay on track. Basically, is what his purpose is in the show.
Okay, do you consider yourself an actor who can sing or a musician who can act?
I consider myself an actor who can sing. Sometimes in musicals, they're not so much looking for how well you can sing, but how well you can act a song. Because you can always take vocal lessons. I think directors would rather teach an actor to sing than teach a singer how to act. And, you can see it in the movies. Some singers can do it well. Some, need a little bit more guidance from a director. But, it's possible either way.
And how about your movement, too? Are you trained in that, in your dance?
The school where I went, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, is a conservatory, and movement is crucial. I consider myself very physical. It's just, if I can get the movement of a character, it helps me. I've played Shakespeare quite a few times, and if you can get the movement of the character, it can kind of, it just works for me. But movement is a huge part of what we do as actors, especially on the stage. So, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. You're actually very good with movement.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. So basically, what are your thoughts on child theater? Is this something that you want to do a lot of, or do you want to actually start going to Shakespeare or maybe more challenging roles?
People, some people, some actors even talk bad about children's theater, but I think it's huge. It's great. If you look at some of the highest grossing movies, for example, in history, a lot of them have been family-oriented shows. You look at Toy Story 3, you look at The Lion King, Finding Nemo, which was a movie, huge success, and now it's also a musical. So is The Little Mermaid. All of these shows, bring families together, and there's a lot of for producers, there's a lot of money in that. So I think, I think actors should embrace it if they don't. Try it out. You really work your improv skills, singing and dancing, and just go with the flow, basically.
Yeah. Basically, on my show, there's two things I don't do. I don't do burlesque, and I don't do children theater. Mm-hmm. For a lot of reasons. But I actually decided to review this because the cast is completely adults. Everyone here is an adult, mm-hmm. and you're real actors, so I thought I'd give it a shot and all that. Mm-hmm. And you're acting it. Again, the acting's actually pretty good and all that. So what kind of acting you bring to this? Because the character doesn't change. You're not going through a tragedy. You're kind of playing the same character over from the start to the very end. It's kind of the same character. No conflict, no... How do you bring character into it?
Well, there's definitely conflict. I mean, there's conflict sometimes amongst all of us, but more so in us trying to get the title character Annabelle to remember who she is. We all know who she is, but she doesn't, and so there's conflict in that. There's also conflict of time. There's it has to happen now, because if we get to her destination and she doesn't remember, something bad's going to happen. So there's always some sort of conflict. But in terms of the acting, what this theater company does, they don't dumb down their plays for children. It's something that both adults can get something out of it, and kids. Like the show SpongeBob on TV. Adults like it, teens like it, and kids like it. There's something for everybody. And hopefully everyone gets the message. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very, very much for being on the show.
Yeah, totally. Right. Thank you.
This is Ashton Marcus with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and you're?
Chris DiCarlo. I'm a co-artistic director, and I directed today's play. I'm also an actor and an theater artist here at Santa Monica Playhouse. Been here for 51 years this year.
Okay, and what play was this?
This was Annabelle and the Snow Queen Express. Annabelle, who is going home for the holidays, actually for a family reunion from school, gets on a train, and strange things begin to happen, and she is surrounded by some magical characters who take her on a journey that she did not expect, and there's a moment of self-discovery, and the rest is for the audiences to discover.
Okay, you primarily did casting for this play, correct?
I did the directing, the casting. I assisted on the writing. I built the set or designed the set, worked with. So we did a lot. We're a small venue, and we do everything here. You know, our company was founded in 1960, and we're more of a Renaissance repertory company where all the actors try to do everything, you know, participate not just in the acting but all the other artistic endeavors that are included in a production. So I'm part of that whole family.
So this is original piece.
This is definitely an original piece. Yes, we actually completed it about 4 months ago. So it's just an idea that came to us. We have several family theater shows that we have developed over the years, and some of them have been with us since 1976. Alice and the Wonderful Tea Party, Cinderella since 1984, the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, actually in the Seven Companions, Annabelle, which is recent, Dorothy's Adventures in Oz since 1994, so, and several others in between. But we develop these shows through our workshops, through our adult workshops, and these ideas are developed and then culled and then actually evolve from that process. So we're trying to deal with themes that are important to the community. In this case, the themes were about family, we're about value, we're about the noise that we have to deal with every day in terms of just in our daily lives, all the things that impinge upon our lives. So we wanted to make it accessible. It's not about preaching, it's just about exploring these themes and these questions that people have about their lives and how to cope, how to handle, and just how to appreciate.
For casting a play like this, what do you look for?
Well, there are a lot of factors involved. The piece itself, we look for characters that, people that, that fit the profile of what we're looking for in terms of an energy that they might emanate or in terms of a look that we might be looking for. But more importantly, it really is a capacity to do the work, to participate in what we call the ensemble, because we do ensemble work. So we really look for people, it's not just their talent or their skill or their abilities, but also the attitudes that allow them to work together and collaborate and participate in an event like this, because theater requires that collaborative connection. Without it, we have chaos. Just like on a sports team, you want players to work together rather than just all being individual stars. So we look for those qualities as well, both in the audition process, in the callbacks, and in the rehearsal process.
When you factor in everything, how important is the audience?
There is no play without an audience. An audience is the other part of the play, because it's the interaction, the chemistry that is evoked through the performance to the audience, their feedback in that moment. It cannot be it cannot be recorded. It's essential that it happen in the moment. So without an audience, there is no play. There's a piece of literature, there's a story, but there's no play, at least the way I look at it. The dramatic event occurs in the relationship between the audience and the ensemble, where those points collide through the story. We join with the story.
So the audience were children and primarily children. How does that factor into your decision making?
Children, well, we look at theater as theater, and our experience has been that children are actually a more informed audience on an intuitive level than an adult audience. An adult audience is filtering through a lot of sensibilities, but a child audience, they're going to be honest with you. If it's not reaching them, they tell you. If it's reaching them, they tell you. Adults are generally more polite, more articulate maybe with language, but not in the same way. So we find that it's about the piece itself. It's not about children or adults. So that's why we call it family theater as opposed to children's theater.
And do you factor that in the writing, though? Do you simplify things? Or
not really. I think you saw the piece just now, and I think you'd agree that the lyrics, the story, the concepts were not dumbed down for children. I think that's a mistake, because our experience also has been over the years. We have a young conservatory for young actors, and our we try to introduce them to theater as theater, not one or the other. There are styles of theater. There are ways to approach theater. There are multitudes of paths to take to create theater. But its essence is putting something in front of an audience, evoking a chemistry where there is a flow of intimacy, and that never changes. So we don't think in those terms. At least we don't. I mean, other groups may, or other people have different philosophies, but our practice at least is to the best of our ability to adhere to that idea or ideal.
You're on radio so no one can see you, but you're really not a child. You look far from a child.
I tell people in my soul, I'm still 8 years old. And people laugh, Peter Pan complex and all that thing. I feel that children are our best teachers because they're closest to the spirit of our being, at least when they come into the world open and ready. And I think we can all learn from that. It energizes us, it gives us direction, it allows us to reflect upon ourselves without judgment, and it allows us to play. And I think we all need to play. I think we all have that urge. We're in a world where we have a lot of things we have to do to survive, to participate. And so having that point to play and to expand and grow, that's the only place we have to expand and grow, because otherwise we're just doing our job. We're performing at some level, high level, and it may be exciting, it may be all kinds of things, but over time, we develop a creative tunnel vision because we're doing the same thing every single day. So having the opportunity to play every day, I think is really important. And I think observing children, working with children, experiencing children in that way allows us to become children ourselves and share more honestly, more authentically. I think it's a great opportunity for all of us. That's why I think theater is a beautiful process by which we can evoke community and family and playfulness.
Most people actually have a first reading of original material. Would you do a first reading in front of a crowd of children? Do you think that's a good idea?
We've never done that. Well, indirectly we have, because through our young conservatories we often read our new works in front of them. So there's an audience there. But in a broader sense, it's like giving birth. When you have a first reading, you want to protect it. And so I don't mean you want to filter it or censor it, but you do want to protect it. It's fragile, and it needs nurture, and that requires a little bit of attention. So in the early stages, I think it just needs to be gently introduced and experienced and explored, and then as it gains its legs, then bring it up. That's just been my experience.
Also, a lot of pieces actually evolve. They change. They do rewrites. Would that be common during a process for child theater?
Everything we do here at the Playhouse has always been, we evolve it all the time. We have some plays, like I said, we've been doing since 1976. Every time we bring them back, we revisit them. We restage them. We re-explore the characters, especially often as we're working with new casts. We have had a repertory company for a long time. We have a core membership, but over time people pass on, people move on, so that core original group has diminished a bit. But still, those people remember the 76 productions, but as we've come along the years, the new people coming in are bringing their voices, their thought, their input, their creativity to the task. And that is... that's very helpful. The show still maintains a life. Again, it goes down to that point of when we put it on the stage, there's the audience and us, and we have to find a way to bring ourselves, allow the audience to come in contact with what we're emanating, not just as a fourth wall performance, but as an interaction on some level. And that's the other value of intimate theater. It's not just because it's small and we can't be bigger or anything. Oftentimes, at least in our case, it's an art form. It's a medium. It's different than a large theater. It's a different animal in many ways. And one of the most important ways is the intimate proximity of the actors to the audience. And when that happens, for me, it happened here 51 years ago. I walked in and I saw a play. It changed my life. And I'd been acting since I was 3. So I'd had a lot of theater experience, but never in this form. So for me, and for the Playhouse in general, that has been part of our evolution, is to discover the value, not just the economic value or the ability to produce, but the value of that intimate experience, especially for new theater goers who've never been, because it gives them a sense of theater that they're not going to get in a larger venue necessarily. I'm not saying they can't, but it's not as, because of the distortion factor. When you walk into a big stage, you have this huge space, you have this distance you have to compensate for, both the actors and the audience, so that intimacy of feelings and emotions often gets lost in the mix.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Annabelle and the Snow Queen Express will be playing at the Santa Monica Playhouse from January 17th through March 29th. For more information, go to www.santamonicaplayhouse.com or search for AMB Theatre on Facebook.